and quite common. But we're going to bring Medi on to discuss this because he's been the subject of what's, I think, a clear case of political persecution, and the media's reported on it, but no one actually in the media will ask him for quotes or what his position is or how he feels about all of this. It's a totally one-sided conversation, and so we want to provide another side to that conversation. But I'll play this clip from 7 News, and then we'll bring Medi on to explain what's going on here.
Man's been charged by federal police over allegedly making threats towards Senator Lydia Thorpe. He'll face court in September for his alleged role in creating and publishing an offensive video online, which included threats of violence against the outspoken politician. The maximum penalty is 5 years in jail.
Yeah, so there's no threats of violence. I think basically what he said in the video was he referred to her as a whore, Lydia Thorpe. Now, apparently referring to a powerful woman, an Australian senator, as a whore constitutes inciting violence against her, and you can be charged with a crime that could put you in jail for up to 5 years. I mean, that's insane. Anyway, let's bring Medi on. So, Medi, nice to have you on the show. Maybe you could just start by explaining to the audience, like, exactly, what actually was the thing that they're accusing you of posting a video inciting violence. Like, what was actually in the content of the video, and how are they construing it? In such, in my opinion, it's obviously just because you're associated with white nationalism, obviously, that they're doing this to you. But yeah, maybe explain it for the audience.
Yeah, can you hear me properly? I just want to confirm that everyone can hear me well.
You're a little quiet. Maybe speak a little closer to the mic.
Yeah, I've got the mic on me now. Can everyone hear me properly?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Cool. So I may as well start from the beginning. So on June 2nd last year, a raid was executed against my person, against my domicile and my car, and I woke up at like 4:30 to do some meetings for a company I work for, and basically I was awake for 2 hours before. I was making breakfast. I came back to my office, and then I hear a huge knock on the door, and then I look at my CCTV, and there are like 10 AFP agents just around the door of my house. And basically I'm like, oh shit, what now? So I basically opened the door. I asked them immediately for their warrant. And they gave me their warrant straight away. They asked me for my full name. I gave them my full name. And then I asked them what it's about, and they said it's about a video that I was allegedly part of. And I couldn't believe it. I was very surprised. I didn't know that they'd be that zealous over a video, especially given the fact that one of their spokespeople in February of 2022 was quoted in the media as saying that the video in question, and I'm sure everyone knows what I'm talking about, everyone's probably seen that video of some people burning the Aboriginal flag, and they were in masks. So that floated around YouTube. There was an article about it as well, and I was doxxed in February last year. My name was mentioned because I was literally part of the making of this video, apparently. But in that article, so if you Google neo-Nazis burn Aboriginal flag, that's the context. In that same article, a spokesperson from the AFP mentioned that there is no criminality here. Lydia Thorpe was complaining to the AFP that she felt threatened or whatever, and basically they were telling her that the substance of this video is, well, it's offensive perhaps, according to her, or distasteful. It doesn't actually, breach any threshold of criminality. So I've got the article here. I just wanted to read that part because I really think that's extremely important. So just bear with me. So this is an article from Nick McKenzie.
If you send me the article, I can pull it up on the screen, by the way.
Yeah, sure. I'll send it to you now. Give me 1 sec.
But yeah, also I think the mic, I don't know if it's coming through your computer audio instead of your actual handheld mic. You might want to go into the mic settings down the bottom here, fix that up. But yeah, it's just like, burning the Aboriginal flag, apparently that's a problem. But whenever they do their Invasion Day protests, they're burning Australian flags constantly, and that's totally fine, apparently.
Well, exactly. There's been a lot of anti-Australian, propaganda from the government. Every year, the anti-Australia pro-invasion day rallies get a lot louder, and a lot of these rallies, the Australian flag gets burned. So I
That's
guess
just a
there's
political
organic
statement,
catch by
isn't it?
some
Like,
people.
but burning a flag is just a political statement. It can't be okay to burn one flag but not another flag. It's a harmless political statement that hurts no one. So
precisely, not one person has ever been charged for burning the Australian flag, and burning the Australian flag is not illegal. But what is illegal is that if you do it outside of private property, so in public, which is where it usually happens, it's actually a fire hazard. So technically, burning a flag in public, that is like against the law, but only because it's a fire hazard.
Is that what you've been charged with specifically?
No, I've been charged with using a carriage service to offend. So I'm sure a lot of people are sort of familiar with that particular charge. Typically, it's used for like ex-boyfriends who harass their partners and just threaten their lives or just incessantly text them. It's worded using a carriage service to menace, harass, intimidate, and it's used a lot. A lot of people that breach their AVOs, for example, get done for that charge. But typically, it's the people that text their partners too often or threaten them or menace people using a carriage service like a phone, for example. It's actually subsection 474.17 of the Criminal Code, Commonwealth. So it's an indictable offence.
Just the wording of it is indictable, is it?
Yeah, it's an indictable offence. Yeah.
Well, at least that gives you the right to a jury. Does the wording of the charge say using a carriage service to offend or to harass? Does it say offend?
Just offend. So it's the lowest tier of this charge. And my lawyers have assured me that it's not really nothing to be worried about in terms of what's it called?
Yeah, like when it comes, it's kind of ridiculous that we have a law on the books that you can't offend. Like, what is that? Like, maybe the legal definition of the term offend, is more beefed up. But in a kind of common sense understanding of what the term offend means, I mean, it's just so vague. You could almost define anything anyone does online as using a carriage service to offend if it's controversial.
Pretty much. They're not. The thing is, there's been a bit of a disconnect between what the media have said, because they're saying that the video itself contained violent threats, which is not the case. Anyone who watches the video in full, with the full 13-minute video, there's no violent threats. The only reference to
if the media has accused you of making violent threats and you haven't made violent threats, I know Dennis Hutz, who's an associate of mine from Perth, he successfully sued, I don't know what channel it was, but it was mainstream media. He successfully sued them and they settled for like $50,000 or $60,000, which they paid him because they called him a white supremacist without any context or proof. He took them to court. It took him about 2 years, but they gave him some money. They settled and he sued them successfully. So you might want to think about something similar if that's the case.
I've already thought of that and spoke to a mutual friend about that as a course of action, and he told me that it's not as simple as that. I won't get into it, but apparently it's not, because they're saying violent threats, and even though there's no violent threats per se, burning the Aboriginal flag and having a poster that calls her ABO space WHORE. I don't want to say it on stream because it might get us shut down, but there's a reference to her being.
So when it says here vicious racist slur, like that, they just mean saying abo. Like saying abo is apparently a vicious racist slur. It's just shortening Aboriginal. Like it's like saying Lebo or Aussie, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and then after the abo, there's the WHORE. So there's a poster that appears for like 30 seconds. Just 30. The entire reference to Lydia Thorpe in the entire video is for about 30 seconds. And it's in the form of a poster. Her name wasn't even mentioned verbally. And at a glance, it doesn't seem like it breaches any sort of serious criminal offence. And in the article, if you go down past my photo with Tony Abbott, that paragraph after Tony Abbott, if you just read that, it'll tell you what the AFP spokesperson said.
Why do you think, because you said that this incident with the burning of the Aboriginal flag, this incident occurred June 2nd last year, is that what you said?
No, the video was allegedly uploaded in June last year, before Australia Day. And then
Is your charge specifically in relation to that video?
Yes, just that video, nothing else.
Why do you think they've waited until now to charge you?
I did a video about this on my channel. I'll explain that. So basically, I have this theory that initially, as you can see, it says in the article, correspondence cited by The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald reveals that federal police initially advised Thorpe they could do little about the video because, despite being offensive, it, open quote, does not appear to contain material which constitutes a criminal offence. So basically, they were saying lawful but awful, is what Mike Burgess said in one of his parliamentary inquiries. Anyway, and basically, I think that there's like some sort of Aboriginal liaison officer in the AFP who basically pressured, the relevant stakeholders to just make an example, because even though there was no violent threats, they just wanted to set an example, because there was a fear that people will replicate this video and do something similar. So if we don't make an example, more and more people will start burning Aboriginal flags. You got a referendum coming up for the voice. Also, when I email the AFP, I do a lot of FOI requests on occasion to get documents from the AFP, because I know they're investigating me. And whenever I email my application of FOI to their email, there's always on the signature, we recognise Indigenous people of this land and Aboriginal flag. So they're very pro-Aboriginal from a cultural perspective. I think that they were afraid that more people would burn the flag and do something similar, so the whole copycat phenomenon. And I just think Lydia herself, as an individual, she probably just, I'm assuming, just really was down their throats and basically just complaining, and they just said, all right, let's just find something and do something.
That does happen.
It's very clear that they didn't care about the video. They did not care about the video at the start. They told her that if you want to do something about it, just complain to YouTube. On the next paragraph, Joel, if you scroll down, it says that if you want to take it down or something, you can make a complaint to YouTube. And that's all that they were doing. And then 4 months later, this article was in February last year, 4 months later, in June, I get raided by the AFP. So, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, because I was followed in a supermarket a few years ago, I think it was, by a guy wearing a face covering. Some people might know about this story, some don't. But he recognized me. I was just shopping for groceries in an IGA. He recognized me and threatened me. So I shoved him to create distance, because I didn't know who this guy was. And I did sense that somebody was following me. It's like he followed me for a couple of aisles. And I just shoved him. I wanted to hit him. I was really angry that this guy had the audacity to just threaten me and swear at me like that in a public place. I had no idea who he was. But I left without assaulting him, or so I thought. The police ended up trying to question me about it, but I didn't really want to talk to them. I said I had nothing to say. And I didn't hear anything for a few months, but then they came back and they charged me with unlawful assault, summary offence, and they apologised while giving me the charge papers. They said, look, you clearly restrained yourself in the video, and initially we weren't going to charge you, but this guy has been emailing and calling the Commissioner's office weekly, daily, demanding that you be charged with something. And the Commissioner's contacted our sergeant, and he said, charge him with something. So we're just charging you with the lowest possible assault offence we can find. Sorry. So that happens in Australia. I wouldn't be surprised if something similar happened in your case.
Yeah, they're definitely being overzealous, and I think that maybe some of them don't. I reckon a lot of the AFP people behind this don't really like Lydia Thorpe, because she's been, she has played a lot of antics, at the Mardi Gras with Victoria.
Does anyone like Lydia? Does anyone like Lydia Thorpe? Really, like?
Well, exactly. But from their point of view as well, she was causing trouble at the Mardi Gras, and also she ran towards Posey Parker in front of Parliament House. And from my understanding, AFP are the guys that sort of the security there. So she's already caused them dramas, and it seems like there's a very top-down sort of order that they've got to basically make an example out of me at the behest of Lydia, and also because they've maybe come to a realization that it's worth making an example, to set an example. That way no one else burns the Aboriginal flag, given the referendum coming up and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Maybe they saved the charge until now with the referendum in play because it makes the Aboriginal people look like, it makes the no side look bad. Like, oh, look what they're doing. They're making obscene statements and burning the Aboriginal flag. These people are illegitimate. These people are disgusting. You know what I mean? They might have saved it until now for that reason.
That's dumb, though. It's not going to work. I mean, the average person doesn't care if you call a sitting senator an abo whore and burn an abo flag on a video. I mean, no one actually cares. People who care about that are already going to be voting yes for sure. They're like full leftists. But the average person doesn't care. Like, this is just a nothing burger to them.
It does feel like,
it's just petty. It's just petty political policing. It's just petty harassment of
really
you
is,
because you're a white nationalist involved in politics, and anything they can do to mess with you, they'll try and do. And obviously, Lydia Thorpe has some pull because she's a sitting senator, so her complaints mean more. And it's a case of the privilege going up against. Just a normal person. It's kind of ironic because apparently she's saying we have white privilege and she's an oppressed Aboriginal. She's the one who's actually privileged, obviously.
Exactly. I made this point in the video that I did on my channel, is that I've got no power here. I'm just an average guy from the suburbs, and she's a senator. And, she offends people every few weeks. She's in the media for some stupid thing she's done. She's literally, I'll mention 3 things that she's done that I think really highlight the hypocrisy here. The first thing she did was a few years ago, she was going to board a flight with Virgin Australia, and she was stopped at security, and she had to do a random sort of check. They checked her bags, and I think maybe a search of her body as well, on her person. And that's anyone who's travelled before. That's just standard practice. I mean, I went to Sydney last year, and I was stopped by an Indian security guard, a female. I didn't like it, but that's just their policy. I had to, they searched my bag, I complied. And when that happened to Lydia, she basically cried racism. She said that she was racially profiled, okay? And obviously that never happened. She was making it up. So the reason why I mention that is because it highlights a perpetual victim mentality. She just loves being the victim. And in the brief or the statement of facts that I got, she mentions that, that it was very offensive and that sort of stuff. So it just really highlights the fact that she's a perpetual victim. She loves being a victim. She revels in it. It's part of her identity, basically.
How could she be racially profiled anyway? Her name, Lydia Thorpe, is a white name, and she's like 90% European with, like, I don't know how much Aboriginal ancestry she has, but it's obviously not a lot just looking at her. So it doesn't even make sense for her to be racially profiled. People wouldn't even assume that she has any Aboriginal ancestry if they looked at her on the street. There's no.
Could you imagine being the security guard? Could you imagine being the security guard at the airport? That, we're just going to check your bag, miss. She screams at you, "You're profiling me because I'm Aboriginal." You'd be like, "What? You're white."
Yeah, and the other thing she did was obviously the strip club thing. That was just hilarious, the whole strip club thing. But if you remember the strip club video,
it's basically a death threat that she gave to someone out the front.
Yeah, not only did she call people white C-bombs, white cunts, on numerous occasions. That's a racial abuse right there, and I'm pretty sure they're very strong.
That's racial abuse and profiling that is permitted by the government.
Yeah, exactly.
So you call someone a white cunt, but you can't call them an abo whore.
Yeah. Exactly, and that's the point I'm trying to make here, is that she was never charged with abusing people for being white on the street, and I'm getting charged.
How did she threaten people? What did she say?
She called them white cunts, and she said that they have a small penis, And she also said, and this is the kicker, she also said to one of them, I'm quoting directly here, you are marked, and that comes from marked for death. So she's literally threatening to kill people on the streets of Melbourne, and those are legitimate, genuine threats. Whether she was pissed or not, it's not the point. She threatened someone on the street, and the AFP have not charged her with threatening people. They haven't charged her with racially abusing people. And on top of that, as a so-called Australian senator, but I don't think she's an Australian senator, but apparently she is, when old Parliament House was being burnt, I think from some freedom protests or something, or just burning last year or something, she posted a tweet basically celebrating the burning down of old Parliament House, which is a historical building. It's part of our history, it's part of our architecture. It shouldn't be burning, it's there, it's part of history. And she's basically celebrating the fact that old Parliament House was burning. And she linked to colonialism and all sorts of stuff. And this is a sitting Australian senator
Imagine being an affluent Australian senator and you still think the system's against you and you're a victim because you have like 2% Aboriginal blood. You're an active senator. What more do you want?
Well, that's the game being played. We live in a victimocracy, Blair. So the more like Jews run Australia through perpetually crying about how, and they run the world through perpetually crying about how big of a victim they are. We live under a victimocracy, and she's playing the game. And like that study we covered about how far left activists are, generally speaking, narcissistic or psychopathic, and that they're motivated by dark ego drives, to use their terminology, as opposed to like the actual political objectives of their political ideology. You can see that in a figure like Lydia Thorpe very clearly, where she's clearly just on a narcissistic power trip, and she doesn't actually have a political opinion of any substance. She doesn't actually have beliefs that are founded in genuine concerns or moral kind of contemplations or policy analysis or anything like this. She's just a drama queen. And what's interesting as well is that according to these leftists, sex work is a legitimate line of work. So why is being called a whore a problem? I thought sex work is sex work. It's just like working at 7-Eleven. What's the difference? So what's so bad about being called a whore anyway?
But the ego, like telling people they're marked, obviously that's some sort of threat, right? How does Lydia Thorpe intend to carry out that threat? Oh, she's going to talk to her biker friends. Man, MC members, she would go to an MC member and say, oh, this guy was mean to me. Like any MC member would be like, I don't give a fuck. You go deal with it. Like MC clubs operate on like a sort of an anarchistic, autonomous principle where everyone sorts out their own little problems in their own lives. The club doesn't come rushing to your help every time someone's mean to you. Like, how's the ego on her, bro?
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that just about covers it. But you can follow Medi on Telegram. What's your Telegram handle? Is it Osmed51?
I think so, but I think there's a different. I think it's So t.me t.me/Osmed AUSMED.
You're breaking up bad. You're breaking up.
Audio is terrible.
t.me/Osmed51 AUSMED.
Send it to Joel. Type it to Joel, and he can put it in the description or whatever. Because we can't.
I think it's AUSMED51 is the handle anyway. But anyway, I'm going to go to I'm going to collect some super chats. You're welcome to hang around for the super chat component of the show, and then we'll close it up here. So
I want someone to send a super chat for Medi. I want someone to ask Medi a good question. Make sure someone asks you a question. If we don't get a super chat, we'll just ask from the.
I'll stick around for a few questions, maybe. Yeah.
So this question, I think it was actually supposed to be for Tom, but it was from the other night, but I couldn't, it was freezing up, so I couldn't pull it up. So I'll ask it now. Blair, what's your opinion on behind the neck pull downs? Are they a meme exercise?
Oh, I've never done them, behind the neck pull downs. I think they're probably good for shoulder mobility. I've seen bodybuilders do them, and I know, Arnold was a bit of a fan. I probably should try to do them. I do behind the neck military presses for shoulders because I find they hit all three shoulder heads almost. If you actually put a camera or you get someone to film you from behind, if you do standard military press versus behind the neck military press, you can see all three of the delt heads and the shoulder are more engaged if you do the press from behind the neck. You can't go as heavy, and you do need to be fairly strict in your movement, but it's just it's good to change it up if you to go in front of your face and behind your neck. But the pull downs I've never actually tried. But anyone should be able to do them. If you actually physically can't do behind the neck press or pull downs, your shoulder mobility needs work. You should be able to do them.
Yeah, fellow comrade said that he just farted, so that's an that's excellent. Thanks, man. Cal said thoughts on this idea of a separate Aboriginal self-governing state that has been suggested. I think a self-governing state would be a recipe for disaster. They aren't capable of self-governing, but having their own autonomous region where they do their Abo thing, that's preferable to having them living in the cities and stealing shit from white people and committing other various violent crimes and thefts and so on. So, obviously that would be probably preferable. I mean, I think the majority of them do live in rural areas, but they kind of parasitically live off the edge of white townships a lot of the time. So I think kind of separating them into their own area would be ideal. And I think, we're talking about the so-called stolen generations earlier, where, basically compassionate white Christians were trying to protect Aboriginal children from the abuse that they were getting from their parents and other family members. That was probably, I can see like the moral motivations of them at the time. They were trying to do the right thing, but in retrospect, it's probably just better to just leave them to their own devices because their culture is so messed up that no amount of white intervention is going to fix it. So just separate. That's the only solution.
I think these areas you're talking about, Joel, would that constitute a separate nation state or just
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't think they're capable of having. You can't let them have their own separate nation state because then they would just become dominated by who knows who. The Chinese will come in and pay them off, or whoever else, and then we've got that to deal with. So you can't give them actual national sovereignty. They're not capable of practicing it. But I'd say just move them into their own autonomous areas.
Yeah, we just become a Chinese
practice their tribal law and point sticks at people or whatever. If whatever, who cares? If they're off in the bush running around doing their own thing.
Initially I was thinking, yeah, give them a nation state. I don't care. Like, what do I care? Give them some land. But you're right; it'd just become a Chinese military base within a year because they would just accept all these money and deals from anyone who came over and offered it to them, right? So yeah, it's good.
No, I'm really glad you said that, Blair, because there are still people. Obviously, it changed since then, but there are still people on our side of the political spectrum who literally have no issue with having an Aboriginal nation state in Australia, and their reasoning is that if we do that, there has to be some strict rules. Just leave us alone. No more changing Australia debates. No more money. Just get a complete divorce from white society. And it sounds all good in theory. Most of it, I guess, the whole not changing Australia and that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, it goes against fundamental nationalist principles. And I don't know how they don't realise this. And one of the biggest ones, in my opinion, that I addressed today in one of my videos, I posted on Telegram just a couple of hours ago, is that allowing an Aboriginal-only nation state contradicts the idea of territorial integrity. So when I was in year 8, year 9, I did politics, and one of the first things we were taught was the concept and definition of a nation state. A nation state is defined by defined borders and a group of people that share a common language and history and culture and race, etc. And we've got people on our side, not many, but a small minority, who are literally saying, let's just give them parts of Australia to call their own, have a nation state within a nation state. It just does not make sense. It goes against the idea of territorial integrity. And the reason why we have an Australian Defence Force is to literally ensure our territorial integrity from foreign invasion. And then you've got people who are saying, let's just suspend that basic principle, which we have a defence force for, and just give people land. okay, and give them their own nation state. I just don't understand how people can reconcile nationalism with allowing Aboriginal territorial, integrity.
Well, if you look at it, if you
state.
look at Australia, like it's your house with different bedrooms and living areas, would you give one of those rooms to a certain race and just like let them have it? Of course not, right? It's your house. They can build their own house somewhere else.
They're going to have the fucking TV on full blast. They're going to cause trouble. Like what we said before, Blair, you just can't. They rely on us. They're going to keep asking for money. They're going to somehow latch onto us somehow. They're never going to stop, asking for things and asking us to do favors for them. Just like in the house, they're just going to cause trouble. Just they have their own room, sure, but they're just going to make a lot of noise and just be a parasite, basically.
What's next?
Yeah, I'll have a look here. So, Open Borders for Israel said, what happened to XYZ and David Hickscox? Did it all get too much for him? Yeah, I didn't speak to David personally about why he quit, but presumably it must be something of that nature of the workload was just too much for him. I don't know all the details of his personal life. So it's unfortunate. It was good to have XYZ articles getting pumped out. I wanted to start kind of helping out. I probably could have done more to help them out. I tried to involve myself a little bit, but it's difficult. It's difficult creating dissident media when you also have a full-time job and juggling all the kind of having your actual life and also putting the time in. So it's a shame to have lost him, and hopefully he just only needs like a 6-month hiatus or something and he's back. But yeah, I don't really know all the details. I don't know if either of you gentlemen know the details with David, but
I know Dave, and I reckon he'll be back in one capacity or another. I don't think he'll stay gone. He'll be back. Maybe not with XYZ, maybe with something else, but he'll be back. There you go.
Yeah, so Tom said Tom Sewell said he spoke to David and he wants to work on another project and he's taking time to develop it. Well, that's good. So yeah, he's just working on something else, and I'm sure whatever he's working on is going to be great. So he's a good guy. It's good to have people take initiative, and he's someone who takes initiative to create white nationalist and just like broader dissident right, populist, whatever you want to call it, journalism and commentary, and that's a valuable thing. Yeah, that's pretty much it. All these other super chats, they're just sending money but not actually asking a question. Someone should actually ask a question about, what did Blair say? Ask a question about Medi. So
Medi always gets funny questions. I just wanted someone to stir shit up. There's some questions for Medi in the actual free chat, I think. I might be able to find one.
Oh, yeah, you can dig one out.
Nah, it's okay. Don't worry about it. There's not much to say about it.
But yeah, it's good to have you on the show. Next time you come on the show, though, you got to get a better mic, because that mic is I don't know what's going on with it. It's dog shit.
Mm.
Or maybe it's just the settings.
Yeah.
People are saying, is Medi Turkish? No, he's Greek. We wouldn't have a Turk on the show.
Why not?
I was going to ask. We're going to be doing something. I think we're going to do a stream on The Voice as well. Probably in October.
You are?
Yeah, I think I spoke to Joel about it. So we should be doing one probably October for The Voice before the referendum.
Yeah, we're going to go hard. We're going to go hard in October, and maybe like even later this month on voice content for obvious reasons.
When's the date of the vote? Exactly.
14th of October. They just announced it.
Right. So early October, you can expect to be bombarded with content from not just us, but mainstream media as well. That's when it'll really pick up.
Yeah. It's going to be in your face. On that note, I mentioned this in my chat, but if you get door knocked by yes campaigners, you need to make sure that you pretend that you're a swing voter and that you're open to voting yes, and just waste their time and just spend at least 20 minutes making them think that you're a swing voter. Because that's half an hour they're not going to spend with someone who actually is a swing voter, who might actually vote yes.
They also could vandalize your house like later at night. if you insult them or you say something quote unquote racist, they could be associated with anti-fascists. If you get door knocked by these yes voters, they could come back and break your windows during the night. That kind of stuff happens. It's pretty much standard in Australian politics. So keep that in mind too.
And also it's called, I think some guy's Liberal MP in Perth was trashed. Office was trashed. So yeah. And I reckon there'll probably be more violence during the campaign. I remember during the gay marriage plebiscite, there were people who were abusing no campaigners, and I remember seeing a video of an Anglo-Australian just abusing some immigrant guy who was campaigning for no and saying, "Oh, we let you in this country, and you're against equal rights." And
we should plan a no victory celebration for after the referendum, because how long will it take to count the votes? Like a couple of days?
Maybe I reckon they'll know the night of, probably. I reckon they'll know the night of.
Maybe in 2 days afterwards or something.
Unless the fix is in. If the fix is in, then they'll drag it out.
Right. We could make a big party in the city or something and just invite everybody, make it a big event, celebrate the no result.
I don't think we should plan that before. I think we should wait till I just don't want overconfidence, but maybe afterwards, maybe that's an ideal. Yeah.
Yeah. We can plan either a victory party / rigged election protest. And
either way, we're having a party.
yeah. By the way, speaking of the so-called based immigrants against gay marriage, I'm going to put up a video on my channel tomorrow analyzing Joel Jamal. I recorded it already. I was going to put it out yesterday, but by the time I finished it was late at night, and then we had this stream today. So I'm going to post it tomorrow morning on my YouTube channel. I did like this reaction video to Joel Jamal, who is a Lebanese Syrian individual from Sydney, who is the head of Turning Point Australia, which is like the Australian version of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's organization. And he got interviewed by Elijah Schaefer, and they kind of got into a bit of a back and forth over the race question, which was quite interesting. So did a reaction video, just kind of watching some clips from it, analyzing it. People might find that interesting. I'm trying to solicit the brown Joel into debating me. I would like a Joel, like white Joel versus brown Joel debate. Maybe Schaefer will host it. If you have access to Joel Jamal on social media, after I put this video out, spam the link in his comment sections. I want him to see it, and tell him to debate me.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we done? How we feeling?
Yeah, I think we're done. I guess so. Yeah, watch my video tomorrow on my channel, but otherwise we'll see you next Thursday for another episode of Joel and Blair. So
thanks.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. And good luck with your case against what's obviously just total bullshit.
No worries.
If the judge has any sense, he'll just throw it out. But you probably won't get that lucky, unfortunately.
My first mention is September at Heidelberg, so I'll keep I'll do some updates on an ad hoc basis. So just follow me on Telegram and you'll get those updates.
Yeah, and if you go into the description, you can find my Telegram or my social media links. You can find Blair's Telegram, and Medi's Telegram is AUSMED51. That's his handle. So
yeah, I sent you if you share the thing I sent you, that way everyone can see. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have a look here. But yeah, I'll share it on Telegram. Anyway, we're going to end the stream. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.